Really, do you want stereotypes? Because this is how you get stereotypes. Hola, mis amigos. Bienvenidos a Armas Olvidadas. Thanks for tuning in to ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at a Colt model of 1902 military pistol that's in their upcoming April of 2020 premiere auction. And this is in its original configuration, complete with fancy mother-of-pearl grips and a marking on the top of the slide that you can't see from there. This is a pistol that was actually special ordered, one of a contract of 800 guns of just this configuration, for the Ministry of Army and Navy in Veracruz, Mexico. This is a .38 caliber Colt, so if you're not familiar with the early Colt automatic pistols, I have a video or two on the subject that I'll link at the end of this, but basically the Colt models of 1900 and 1902 were in a the 38 ACP cartridge. The 45 ACP hadn't been invented yet. Colt would continue to sell 1902 .38 caliber, as they called it, .38 rimless smokeless pistols until actually well after World War I. These pistols remained for sale and for a little while remained in production even after the introduction of the 1911 pattern in .45, because there were people who preferred the .38. And in Mexico in particular, it was a pretty popular pistol. In fact, a total like 2,400 of these pistols were sold to dealers in Mexico, which accounts for like 13% of their total production. And that's really quite a lot. So let's take a look at this, and I'll show you the engraving up here, as well as a closer-up view of these fancy mother-of-pearl grips. So this pistol is one of an order for 800, distributed into 3 separate shipments, all in this configuration, and they were shipped to a Mexican dealer by the name of A. Combaluzier, something like that. The first shipment was 1908. This particular gun came out of the second shipment, which went into the mail on May 12th, 1910, and the last shipment was in July of 1911. 100 guns shipped with this particular one. These were sent to, Combaluzier was in Mexico City, and these pistols were ordered through his company on behalf of the Comandante Militar de Veracruz for the Ministrar de Guerra y Marina, so the Army and Navy Ministry as run by the Commandant in Veracruz. And they specifically called for these mother-of-pearl grips that, well, they wouldn't be my first choice, let me put it that way. These are on a Colt model of 1902 military pistol, as was this whole contract. These are distinguishable by having a square bottom of a grip here and this lanyard loop. The serial number on here is 32,815, which would put this at 1910 production. It has the last version of the slide legend, the most simplified one, where it just refers to Colt instead of Colt's Patent Firearms Manufacturing Company. The caliber is .38 rimless smokeless, or .38 ACP, definitely not to be mistaken for .38 Super, which came later and was definitely more powerful and not safe to use in a pistol like this. And then all the guns in this 800-piece contract have a Mexican eagle crest. So that's the Mexican eagle with a snake in its talons over prickly pear cactus. And that's engraved into the top of the slide. And it looks like that was done after the slide was blued, and someone didn't quite put 100% effort into it because it's slightly off-center. It's kind of pulled off to the right. According to the main reference book covering this contract, which is a book called Colt's .38 Automatic Pistols by Douglas Sheldon, the author says he inspected half a dozen of these, and every single one of them, including this one by serial number, by the way, the crest was off-center like this. So someone set up the jig to do this engraving at the Colt factory and just didn't really care 100%. And the result is off-center crests. These were not the only Colt 1902 militaries shipped to the Mexican government. There was this order specifically with these grips and that engraving, but there were also a bunch of totally stock standard 1902 militaries that were ordered, again, by the military commissioner of Veracruz. And these guns would be used by the military, and they would also show up in the Mexican Revolution. So there's a cool, just a cool photo that I came across on Ed Buffalo's website showing a pair of miners, well, a miner and his daughter is carrying one of these guys, not one with the fancy grips, but a standard 1902 military in a cool period style holster. You can check that out right there, and zooming in on the holster, you can see it clearly is a Colt 1902 military there. So it's neat to have that historical connection. You can see where these pistols actually ended up in some cases. So I think there are two main takeaways from this pistol. And the first one is there are so many cool little stories behind special orders and sub-variants and different models of firearms. The story behind this, like the idea that the military commandant of Veracruz was special ordering guns in this configuration, I think that's super cool, and it's one of the most interesting elements of firearms history and study to me. The other takeaway is that you can't necessarily judge a gun's authenticity just based on stereotypes. You would never expect mother-of-pearl grips like that to have been part of a mass production, legitimate military order, and yet they actually were. So 99% of the time you could look at a pistol like this and go, well, those grips are wrong. But there is that 1% of the time when you'd be wrong and those grips would be right. If you want to add this to your own collection, because it's a really scarce example of a pretty small contract, it is, of course, coming up for sale here at Rock Island, so you can check it out in their catalog. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.